So, most of the people came back, I hope. And let's start. The next speaker, last for this session. There's another session later, don't worry. But last for this session is Nora Díaz. And again, when I see those bios, I think I have to make it shorter because you need the time to lecture as well. On our impressive bio. Nora Díaz is an English-Spanish translator and conference interpreter who enjoys using technology and finding ways to increase productivity, which combined with her love of teaching has led her to share what she has learned through a blog, articles, webinars, and workshops. Nora is a certified RWS trainer and currently serves on the board of the Organización Mexicana de Traductores and is the chair of the American Translators Association Professional Development Committee. She's also one of the co-organizers of the Innovation in Translation Summit and the Innovation in Interpreting Summit. She has recently co-authored a book called The Translators Toolbox. Today's subject is about translation, translation and interpretation technology, the basics and beyond. Nora, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Eliezer, and thank you for the invitation. I am very excited to be here today and to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is technology, of course. And I love seeing everybody here. And if we could use the chat, and maybe you can even open your microphones to let me know, are you a translator, an interpreter, both? Let me know, because we will be covering technology for both areas of our profession. So I would love to see what kind of mix we have in the room. And while I'm waiting for those answers to come in, I'm going to start sharing my screen, if that's okay. Let me just get this in the right place. And, oh, of course, I have to get back the Zoom controls. Give me a second there. Why does this always happen? Okay, let me move this over here. And now, so I want to show the slideshow on the primary monitor. And here we go. So let me know if you can see my screen that I've started to share now. If you give me a thumbs up, thank you. Well, we're going to talk about translation interpretation technology, the basics and beyond. I'm going to stop my video just so you can see the full screen. These are the 4 areas that I want to talk about, and I know we only have 40 minutes, so I'll try not to go too long into any of these, but if you have any questions, you can contact me later. So let me go back to the chat and see what we have. I see that we have translation, both, mainly editing, also teaching, both, translator, both, and I think, yes, translator. Okay, so here we go. Let's start then with translation. So we're going to start with the translation hardware. And let's see what we have here. First of all, my first piece of advice, or the first thing I would like to say, is that whenever we think about the hardware that we use for our work as translators, we should not think computer. We should think workstation. And let me ask you, and let me know in the chat there, do you use a desktop computer, a laptop computer, or both? And while you are giving me the answer there in the chat, which I'm keeping an eye on, what I'm trying to say with this is that sometimes when we think about the basics, the bare bones of what we need to do our work, sometimes we think, well, a laptop is enough. And I see some answers coming in, some laptops, some desktop computers, laptops, plural laptops, of course. And so my advice to you is whenever you think about the area where you work or the hardware that you work with, don't think of a computer, think of a workstation. And having said that, of course, a laptop Just the laptop by itself is not a workstation. A laptop, of course, is a great solution if you have to be traveling. But even if you're traveling, I would argue that it's a good idea to bring those peripherals that turn your laptop into an actual workstation, because this will have an impact on your health in terms of ergonomics. It will also have an impact on your productivity. Yes, exactly. So I see with an external keyboard and extra screen at the office, because that's what turns it into a workstation, right? And so let's talk about keyboards. When it comes to keyboards, let me ask you another question. The keyboard that you're using currently, assuming that it's not the keyboard that is attached to your laptop, but a separate keyboard, was that an intentional purchase, or was that something that maybe was lying around in your house, something that one of your children is not using anymore and you got something that came with your computer? Or was it indeed an intentional purchase where you said, this is the keyboard that I want to get because it's going to be the what I need? And I see great answers coming in. I see mechanical, split ergonomic keyboard, of course. And so the only distinction that I'm going to make now is between a membrane keyboard, which you see on the left, and that's what we have mostly on laptop computers, and a mechanical keyboard that you see on the right. And so these little things that you see, the green things, are called switches. And those switches give you what is called the travel and the clickiness of the keyboard. And mechanical keyboards can go from relatively silent, they are never completely silent, to very, very noisy. If you get blue switches, those are super noisy. In my house, my son used to have a blue switch keyboard, and you could hear him typing from across the house. Not that the house is very big, but still, I mean, it was very, very noisy. Membrane keyboards are a lot quieter, but you can see how the keys are shallower, and so they don't give you that tactile feedback that many of us like. I personally like the tactile feedback. It's easier to make mistakes on a membrane keyboard. Of course, being a touch typist always helps, but it's easier to press the wrong key because they are so shallow. And so that is an important distinction. For me, the distinction in which one to use, I have both. I have an external membrane keyboard and a mechanical keyboard. For most of my work every day, I use the mechanical keyboard, but when I'm interpreting, I use the membrane keyboard for the very simple reason that it is quiet, and this one's very noisy. And so here, let me make sure that I'm sharing sound, because I have a little video to show you the difference in, there it is. So here are the two keyboards side by side, so you can hear the difference. And let's hope that works. Can you see that? So one is very muted, kind of a dull sound, while the other one is, well, a very mechanical, plasticky kind of sound. So this is great for when I'm working by myself, but if I'm interpreting, I decided to buy the membrane keyboard because once someone said, I hear typing. Yes, that was me typing while I was interpreting, and that's not ideal. So that's one consideration, if quiet versus noisy. The next thing I want to talk about is storage. And when it comes to storage, this may be more applicable to desktop computers than to laptop computers. Desktop computers, today, more and more desktop computers come out already out of the factory with a solid state drive instead of a hard drive, or in addition to a hard drive. Oh, I see, Eleazar, the portable SSD. Yes, I have one as well. Laptop computers, for the most part, have SSDs. But I would say if you're getting a new computer, check the specs, check the specifications to make sure that it has a solid state drive. And make sure that you have your operating system and your main programs on the solid state drive. Why? Because it's a lot faster. If you want your computer to run faster, to run more efficiently, there is no better upgrade that you can make than adding a solid state drive if it doesn't have one already. And it doesn't have to be a huge solid state drive because those can be very expensive. But even 512 gigabyte or 480, that will work well to have your operating system and your main programs such as Stratos Studio. And the difference is noticeable when you switch from a hard drive to a solid state drive. On my previous desktop computer, I myself installed the solid state drive. It's not rocket science. It comes with very clear instructions to migrate everything. And it really takes a couple of hours, and it makes a huge difference in your quality of life when it comes to not having to wait for things to open or things hanging while you're working. Another important element that most of us are familiar with is, of course, RAM. And RAM does not make a difference really in how fast your computer runs, but it does make a difference in how many things you can have open at the same time without performance suffering. So if you're like me and you have dozens of browser tabs open and several programs, intense program or heavy processing programs open at the same time, more RAM will make you happier. 16 gigabytes, I would say at this time, is the absolute minimum. Of course, many programs will tell you that you can do okay with 8, but please keep in mind that programs only give you the specifications for running their own program. They're not telling you this is ideal if you're running other programs at the same time. So even though, for example, Trados Studio will tell you 4 gigabytes is good, yes, but if you have Trados Studio and at the same time you have Acrobat and you have Chrome and you have Dropbox and this and that, then your RAM runs out pretty quickly and things start looking very bleak as you're working. So RAM is cheap. So add RAM to your computer. And this is really both the ability to add an SSD drive and to add more RAM is really the argument for me for my main computer being a desktop computer versus a laptop computer where I can't really upgrade any of these things. Of course, there are upgradable laptops, but those tend to be more on the expensive side. And now we come to the my favorite part of this presentation, which is the mouse. Is your mouse something that came with your computer, something that was just there that you've had for 10 years, or did you make an intentional mouse purchase? And of course, there are ergonomic mice. There are one thing that I would like to say is for you to think about the size of your mouse, because the size of your mouse should fit comfortably in your hand. I have small hands, so a big ergonomic mouse it doesn't work for me. It makes my hands ache. So I have to find a mouse that is the right size. I don't have it in this presentation, but I also have a picture of a super small mouse that I have no idea where it came from, but it's lying around in my house. It's really cute, very small, very, very uncomfortable to use. So make sure that your mouse is the right size and the right kind. And this is my mouse. I actually have 2 of these. Oh, I see people showing me their mice. I love that. Yeah, look at that with the extra button. Oh, very ergonomic. I see that. So this is my favorite mouse. I actually switched from another one that I really used to like to this one for the very simple reason that this one has 20 programmable buttons. And I have 2 of these. I have one for my main computer and one for my laptop computer. That's another suggestion that I'd like to leave you with today. Don't just use the trackpad or the touchpad on your laptop computer. If you add a mouse, you will see, especially if you have to be copying and pasting and moving text around, you will see a great increase in productivity when you start using a mouse with your laptop. This is what the software that comes with a mouse looks like. And these are all in Spanish, but you can see a button is Control-C, another one is Control-V. This is my F11 is my shortcut to add terminology in Trados Studio. This is my screenshot button right here. So I am, people always tell me that I'm really quick at taking screenshots, and that's because of that button there. And you can program these in a matter of seconds. And this is actually, I use this button here on the right to confirm segments in Trados Studio. So it's a wonderful addition. Finding a programmable mouse really, really makes a difference. And I have to say that whenever I met at least 3 people at the end of last year at in-person conferences when we were able to go back who said, oh, I watched one of your presentations where you talked about the Logitech mouse. I got it and it's changed my life. So I don't get a commission from Logitech, but this is not expensive and it's a really great addition to your workstation. Now, another thing that I have on my desk right now is an external touchpad. I have this one that is about 2 inches by 2 by 3 inches. And these external touchpads, why would we need an external touchpad? Well, you know, the mouse sits, at least my mouse sits on the right of my keyboard. And sometimes I am typing and I don't want to move my hands away from the keyboard that much, just to move the mouse a little, the mouse pointer. So I have the touchpad on top of my F keys on my keyboard. And then I just reach up, move the mouse pointer a little and keep typing and, you know, things like that. It's a fully functional touchpad and it's USB. Now, the keyboard, and I know we talked about mechanical versus membrane keyboards, but another thing that's very important to consider is there are keyboards that have both a numerical keypad, which I couldn't live without because I do 10 keying for numbers. And so I never remember to hit the right number here, but these, you can blindfold me and I know where the numbers are. So I really like my numerical keypad, and also programmable keys on the left here. These keys can be programmed to do anything you want. They can be programmed to open a folder, to open a reference file that you open all the time, a program, and so on. Oh, I see. I love this. I love this. Eliezer is showing us his keyboard that has some programmable keys there. So yes, isn't that great? Doesn't that really increase your productivity when you can assign things to those? And so that's really, really great. And if you like doing automations,
it changed my life, actually.
It does change your life.
Avoiding the use of the mouse and trying to have all the time my hands on the keyboard with shortcuts and macros and
exactly. That's where I was going next. I was going to say, if you like creating automations, for example, I like using AutoHotkey and I like Phrase Express as well. You can create automations and macros and assign these keys to do that. This is not my actual keyboard. The one that I have right now only has one column of keys, but that's enough. You know, and it's really, really great. So that's something else to consider. I have to tell you that when I went to get my keyboard that looks very much like this with the lights and everything, but only one column of keys here. My son, who was at the time about maybe 20, 21, was with me, and the person at the store said, was talking to my son, thinking that he was buying it for himself because this is a gamer keyboard. And then when he said, no, this is for my mom, he looked at me like, what? But of course, you know, gamer hardware is always the best for productivity because it has all of these things that you can program and things like that. I also have a separate set of keys sitting on the left of my keyboard, which do essentially the same as this, but I've had them for a number of years now. These are called the X keys. And I like these are 24 additional keys that you can program to do whatever you want. And there is a little piece of software that comes with it. And you can even create layers so that, for example, if I'm in Trados Studio, this key will confirm the segment. I use it when I'm reviewing. So I can really lean back and just have my finger on the little key for confirming segments. But if I'm in a different program, that key does something else, right? So you can program layers for the keys. So that's translation hardware. And I love the excitement and all the things that you showed me. I think we all like geeking out about that. Let's now talk briefly about speech recognition. And please tell me in the chat there, do you use speech recognition? And if yes, what do you use for speech recognition? And I'll start by saying that I started becoming interested in speech recognition many, many years ago when I started developing carpal tunnel syndrome on my right hand, on my right wrist. So I needed to give it a break. And so I thought, well, okay, I should probably look into ergonomics, which helped a lot, and then also into dictation. And so those two things, ergonomics and dictation, took care of the issue. I didn't need surgery. So right now, it's a problem with Hebrew, no proper voice to text. Well, Eliezer, let's see if this makes a difference because this is a new thing. I don't know if it will work with Hebrew. Well, there used to be something in Windows called Windows Speech Recognition, which wasn't great. But now in Windows 11, especially with an update that came out in November, in late November, there is now something called Windows voice typing. And Windows voice typing is super easy to set up. It comes in many languages. Not sure if Hebrew is included, but you can try it out and let me know. And it works very, very well, surprisingly well. So Windows voice typing, to activate it, you hit the Windows key and the H key on your keyboard, and that will open up a little thing where you can start dictating. I have a short video here to show you how that works in Trados. So have a look.
Speech recognition is also known as automatic speech recognition. Open parenthesis, ASR, close parenthesis, comma. Computer speech recognition or speech to text. Open parenthesis, STT, close parenthesis, period.
And there it is, right? So you can see it's practically perfect except for the STT that was interpreted as SDT, but that's my own fault, right? Because I'm not a native speaker of English. So my mispronunciations lead to misrecognitions. So, but it's pretty good. And to switch languages, to switch to Spanish, for example, which is what I translate into, all you need to do is change your computer input. So you change your keyboard language, which is a quick shortcut, Alt and the space bar on my computer, and that switches from English to Spanish. The other option is, of course, Dragon, which for languages like Hebrew is not great because it's not supported. But for those who work in languages that are supported by Dragon and who are willing to shell out several $100s or euros, depending on where you are, Dragon is the gold standard when it comes to dictation. So here is what it looks like. And this is only a short demo, but you can create commands and you can add tags and do all kinds of things. But just look at how it works in Trados Studio.
Speech recognition is also known as automatic speech recognition. Open parenthesis, ASR, close parenthesis, comma. Computer speech recognition or speech to text, open parenthesis, STT, close parenthesis, period.
And again with the SDT. So apparently I can't pronounce it correctly, but again, you can see the accuracy of Dragon. So speech recognition is only good if it can be accurate. And as we saw, both Windows voice typing and Dragon are very, very accurate. So there are, like I said, in Dragon, you can create custom commands. I'm just going to show you a few ones here. So you can see these are commands that I created specifically for Trados Studio, but just to show you the kind of thing that you can do. Cursor before largest. Delete to end of segment. Next segment. Add parentheses to compound. Next segment. Select smallest particle. Add tags. Right, and so all of that was done by voice. I didn't touch my mouse and I didn't touch my keyboard in doing all of that. Dragon is the only program that allows you to do that. And if you're interested in getting my custom commands, I'm always happy to share them. I have a lot of custom commands for Trados Studio specifically, which is my cat tool of choice. So that's speech recognition. Let me know if you try out Windows voice typing, which is free. It's right there if you have Windows 11. If it's not showing when you press the Windows key and the H key, you need to upgrade or update Windows to the latest version, and you should be able to get it. Let's talk now about interpretation. I know most of you in the room are translators, but maybe this will pique your curiosity. And for those of you who aren't interpreters, hopefully this will be helpful as well. So let's start talking about interpretation hardware. I'm a conference interpreter, so I need something that will help me in the booth. I do in-person and, of course, remote simultaneous interpreting. So when it comes to interpretation, protecting our hearing is the most important thing. And this is also important for everyone, not only for interpreters, but so be very, again, intentional in the hardware that you use when you are listening to things. Like, for example, as a translator, you may need to, if you are not audiovisual translator, you probably also listen to a lot of media If you do transcription, you listen to a lot of media. So we need to have the right kind of hardware there. And what I have shown here are just some of the things that we use. We have to have the proper earphones. I'll talk a little about these little guys here. And we have other things like, for example, this is a console. It's a portable console that you can use to listen to your boothmate as you are listening to the main audio from what we call the floor. And this little thing, I'm going to show you how that works. This is special for interpreters, and it simulates an interpretation console right on your desk. And of course, the right kind of microphone. So monitors, these little things that you see here, you may see those and think, well, those are earbuds. Yes, they are earbuds, but they are not just any kind of earbuds. These are not created especially for interpreters. They are for musicians. And I have found that they are amazing. They were recommended in a WhatsApp group that I belong to that is called Hot Sauce Interpreters, that has hundreds of interpreters from all over the world. And someone recommended them there, and I got them, and they are super, super nice. And so they're not expensive again. And here you see them. I'm in the booth here, and I have the in-ear monitors here. What is the difference between these things and just regular earbuds or headphones? These fit in your ear so well that they really block out noise coming from outside. In fact, I have worn them on a plane without listening to anything, just to block out the noise, and they are really, really good. So they can also, because they are so sensitive, you don't need to turn up the volume all that much, and that also helps protect your hearing. But you have to be careful, because you see how they fit snugly in your ear, and this goes over your ear. If you need to take them out quickly, it's not, if there's, for example, a peak in the audio that may hurt your hearing, you won't be able to take them out super quickly. So that is the downside. This is the console that I was talking about, and I want to show you. It's called the Green Terp console. It's a little thing that sits on your desk. I have it in my hand right now because I use it to mute and unmute on Zoom. And I'm going to show you how it works. In the background there, you can see the volume on my monitor. And here's how the volume is controlled with a little knob on the console. You can see in the background there, the volume going up or down. And that is a physical volume button. That is great for whenever you're using Zoom or any other platform, really, because then you don't have to go look for the volume slider on your computer with your mouse. You just use the little thing here. And this is the mute unmute button on the console for Zoom. So you can see Zoom there in the background. I'm going to be pressing the button, and look at what happens there with the mute button. Instant, right? I don't know if you've ever been in I think we all have been in a lot of Zoom meetings where someone is struggling to find their mouse and go to the thing and then click it to mute or unmute, right? So this makes it super easy. When I'm interpreting, I always have my hand on the console, and I just simply press the button, and I can mute and unmute really quickly. There are other buttons here, as you can see, but in the background there, for those of you who are not used to interpreting the interpreting console on Zoom, in the background, we see the outgoing languages. So for example, I interpret English into Spanish and vice versa. So if I'm speaking Spanish, I need that to be active. If I'm speaking English, I need that to be active. If manually, I would just need to go and click on the right language, right? But I don't need to do that because I have this little console, and by pressing this button, the languages change. Look at that. And just yesterday, I was at a meeting where I had to be switching between languages really quickly because there was a conversation going on. And so that little button really makes a difference. And I see that Jaden says, I just leave the volume slider open in a corner during the Zoom session. That's a great idea. For me, during interpretation, it's always better to have an external way of controlling that, because I'm often looking at something else. I'm not looking at Zoom. I'm looking maybe at a second monitor where I have my reference documents open or something. And these buttons control what's going on, whether I have my cursor or my mouse pointer on the main monitor where I have Zoom open or not. But yeah, that's a great strategy. This is another little toy that I have for interpretation, but it can also be used for translation. It's called a Stream Deck, and it's basically the same idea of several keys where you just program these keys to do certain things. And you can see I have some here for my camera and my microphone, a 20-minute timer. All of these are programmable, and it's really easy to set up. It comes with a piece of software that makes it very easy. In simultaneous interpretation, remote simultaneous, it's very important to be in touch with your booth mate who is not actually sitting next to you. Yesterday, I was working with someone in Spain. Tomorrow, I'm going to be working with someone who's in Argentina. And so how do you make that happen? Because when you are, for example, working on Zoom for interpretation, you can't hear your partner. You can see your partner. Your camera is off. And so what we use is, well, many of us use something that is called Simulbooth. And so this is Zoom here, and this is Simulbooth on the right. This is a free piece of software. You download it from Simul, and you can see your partner, and your partner can see you. That's independent from the Zoom call. And you have volume controls here where you can, at the same time as you're listening to the main audio here, you can listen to your booth mate to see what they're saying. You can send them a message. It's really very, very helpful. So that's called Simulbooth. And again, it's a free download. And well, now let's go to automatic speech recognition for interpretation. And how are we doing on time? Let me just make sure that I don't go over time here. Are we okay? Yes.
Now you have 10 more minutes.
Oh, okay. That should be enough. Yes, that should be enough to go over the last part. So the last part that I want to talk about is speech recognition, but for interpreting. So when we say speech recognition in translation, we're talking about dictation, right? When we say speech recognition, and particularly automatic speech recognition in interpreting, we're talking about transcription. So this last part is going to be about transcription, which can also be used for translation, of course. So automatic speech recognition, of course, there are some interpreter only or interpreter specific tools out there, such as Simulnote, which is by the makers of Simulbooth. And Simulnote, what it does is you set your language. For example, here I have English and Spanish, but in this case, the speaker is speaking English. So I select English, and as I enter a bilingual glossary, right? If I have a glossary there like this, you just put in the terms English and Spanish. This was just a test from an actual interpretation assignment, but I was just testing Simulnote. And then you apply that. And as you are listening to the speaker, Simulnote will transcribe what is being said, and it will highlight in red the terms that you entered in your glossary here. So if it, for example, this was, a meeting, a bishop meeting, several bishops were meeting. And so as it hears bishop, it will highlight it here because it's listed here, right? And so it will show it highlighted there in red for me to see very quickly. So you can see this is what people were saying, right? That's the transcript of what they were saying in real time. And in real time, I'm getting the help from the terms that I had entered in the glossary. You can, of course, import a long list of terms. This is very simple, only 3, but you can see how that can be very helpful. This service is not entirely free, but it's also not very expensive. So you see 8 minutes because that's how much longer I have before I have to start paying for the service. There are free services that you can use as well. There is something called Web Captioner. That's a website, Web Captioner. And in order to get Web Captioner to work, and also for Simulnote to work, you need to have installed something that is called a virtual cable. But when you go to the Web Captioner website, there are clear instructions to download the virtual cable and to set it up. And what the virtual cable will do is it will route your audio through the virtual cable so that Web Captioner is listening to the audio coming through your computer instead of the audio coming from your microphone, right? Because that's not what you want. You can also do that. You can transcribe what you're saying, But what you want in interpreting is you want to transcribe what others are saying in real time. So that's Web Captioner, and I'm going to show you how it works in a moment. But I also wanted to alert you to the fact that Windows 11 with the November update also included this great service that is, it's actually an accessibility feature for people who are hard of hearing or deaf. And it's wonderful for those of us who are, interpreters, because you activate this really quickly. You just press the Windows key, the Control key, and the L key. So Windows Control L will open up a little window on top of wherever you are, on your computer, and it will start transcribing anything that comes in through your main speakers or your main audio receiver. You don't need a virtual cable for the Windows 11 service. You just need to have your main speaker active. So for example, I just want to clarify that. I have on this computer where I am right now, my monitors have speakers, built-in speakers. And I also have a headset that I use for interpretation connected to this. So right now, I'm not using the headset. I'm using my main speakers on my monitors. If I wanted to transcribe what's coming in from this meeting, I would need to make sure that my Windows audio output device is set to my main speakers on my monitors. If I'm in an interpretation meeting and I want to be able to hear what's coming through my headset to have it interpreted, I need to select on my Windows settings the headset as the output device. So no virtual cable needed, but make sure that you have the right routing for your audio. And this is what it looks like. On the top here, you have, just one disclaimer. The Windows transcription service only works in English. That's the downside. It's only English. And the Web Captioner works in many, many languages. You just select the language and it starts transcribing right away. And so, and just as a suggestion for those who may want to use this, when I'm interpreting, I usually have two windows open. Web Captioner, one for transcription into Spanish, another one for transcription into English, and I start and stop the corresponding one depending on what people are speaking, right? And if I know it's going to be mostly English, then I would just use the Windows transcription service because it's easy. It's Windows Control L and it starts running. But look at the difference. On the top here, Web Captioner, on the bottom, the Windows transcription feature.
Explosive device.
And I apologize about the violent nature of this topic. It's just something that I was, interpreting.
Devices can create a fireball, which results in burns, a blast wave, which can fragment windows and fragile structures like doors, turning these into flying projectiles or shrapnel, as well as the fragments from the bomb itself. Spalling can also occur. This is where the blast wave picks up loose items and turns these into dangerous projectiles.
Right? Not perfect, but very, very good. So for example, when I have it on, usually when I'm interpreting, and I'm not looking at it all the time, because who needs the extra cognitive load of having to be reading something and figuring out if it's right or not. But when people start saying numbers, or, when there are figures, when there are long lists of cities, for example, or countries, or long lists of things, or names of institutions, I have a quick look, and that either confirms that I heard it right or tells me that I didn't hear it right, and make sure that I don't miss anything. This is also great, for example.
5 minutes,
yes,
Nora.
5 minutes. Yes, thank you. This is also great, for example, when the audio is not all that great, when you really, for some reason, when people are breaking up on Zoom, the captioning service can still pick up pretty well what they are saying. So that can be very helpful. And of course, lately, Zoom has added a transcription feature, or not a transcription feature, but a closed captioning feature. And if the host enables that, you can simply click on that. And I always like to click on that and select View Full Transcript. And see, that's the full transcript. That's what it looks like. So again, I go here to show captions and then View Full Transcript. And that opens this pane on the right where I'm seeing the entire transcript. And I just keep it there. So whenever this is enabled on Zoom and I'm interpreting in Zoom, this is what I use. I don't bother with anything else because this is really, really good, actually. And it can even show you the names of the people who are talking and so on. Oh, there, I see someone enable closed captioning. You can try it right now. You can click on it and then do the transcript on the side. And great news, you can download the transcript and save it later if you want. Why would I do that for interpreting? I don't know. But when I'm taking a webinar, for example, sometimes I'll do that just to have it as notes. And yeah, so that's the transcript with the different people at different times saying things, and you can go back and, you know, read something if you missed something. And there is also an app that you can use on your tablet or on your phone that is called Live Transcribe. So here you're seeing my Android tablet on the left, and on the right, you're seeing my laptop computer running Windows 11 transcription. On the left is the Live Transcribe app. So let me just show you how it runs. And this is picking up the audio from the room. There is no microphone connected to the tablet.
Romanos, entonces cuando llega a Romanos dice, si esa es la conclusión, que rechazaron al Mesías en el Evangelio y por lo tanto han perdido las promesas, dice, no es cierto, de ellos son las promesas.
Right? So it's Live Transcribe is an app that was created for deaf people, and it's amazing at picking up transcription. Now, how is that set up in the booth? Just very quickly, this is a console, an interpreter's console in the booth, and I just take the audio out of here, bring it into my laptop computer, and it will, so in an in-person situation, you can bring the audio into your computer and then run the transcription feature. Sometimes I will bring a splitter with me, and I have a splitter where I can connect my headphones. These are my earbuds, and this is going to my computer so that I can have the transcription going on my computer. And one last thing is sometimes when you're interpreting, you will get, or this happens to me at least, I interpret medical conferences, and sometimes I go and talk to the people in charge and say, can you share the slides for the day with me? And sometimes they'll say, I don't have the slides, but I have the video, because the doctor is not coming in person. We're going to be playing a video. So they'll give me the video, and I use this app that is called Descript, where you upload the video. This is a 1-hour lecture. The reason I ask for the slides is because I want to look at the terminology, right, for preparation. And so they'll give me the video, I drop it into Descript, and in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, I have a full transcript of the 1-hour lecture, and then I can browse it very quickly. I don't need to watch the 1-hour video. I can just go through the transcript really quickly and see I have inflammatory myofibroblastic tumors, ALK gene, and so on. And so I can pick up the terminology really quickly from there. Descript is a great tool for video editing. And the one thing that it does stellarly is, of course, transcription. And that is the end of my presentation. My final reflection is, you know, technology is out there. The way I like to see it is, if I need something, if I think, oh, I would like to be able to do this, I will go and Google, how can I do this? And then I find all of these little things, right? So it always comes out of a need. The need first, and then the solution later. And I just wanted to say that if you haven't got the Translators Toolbox book yet, please support us. This is a project that I am working on with Yo Secha. The book is in its 15th edition, and you can find these and many, many, many other things having to do with translation technology in our book, which has, it's a PDF and a searchable HTML5. And this is my contact information in case you want to be in touch and discuss technology. I'm always excited to talk about technology with fellow interpreters and translators. And this is the end of my presentation. Do we have time for questions or comments? I'm going to stop sharing.
Are there any questions? First, my remark, thank you. Where have you been all the time? I loved it, but of course.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for sharing your wonderful gadgets with me. I always love looking at those things that make our lives easier. Thank you again for the invitation. If there are no questions, again, if you would like to reach out on social media or in any other way later, I'd be happy to connect.
Any questions? Or
Just wanted to say thank you very much. It was very interesting and useful.
Yeah, thanks. It was great. Yeah,
fascinating?
very informative.
Thank you.